Lord of the Seas Nichol was supposed to arrive with a story event. Unfortunately, that did not happen in the global version. While this certainly gives new players a free week to catch up with a great variety of content, I'm disappointed I don't get to read his scenario. I was always more interested in the Odarian setting, so if anyone can fill me in, I'd greatly appreciate it. Lord of the Seas Nichol's Trustmaster reward is the most disappointing thing I've ever seen. It's a materia that boosts water resistance by 30%, gives a 100% boost to your unit's limit burst gauge fill rate, and resistance to confusion. While these three passives are fine and dandy, none of them are so critical or impressive that warrants the rarity of a Neo Vision unit in the first place. His Super Trustmaster reward is a defensive set of clothes. With high defense, spirit, and 50% water resistance, it's a nice piece of equipment that you'll likely never use. It does have a Beast Aquatic Killer attached to it though, so you could definitely find some use with the right battle. Funny that Leviathan doesn't even have a Beast Killer anyways, but I guess no one really remembers that. Regardless, onto his active abilities. True Water Infusion imbues water onto your team, raises their water damage by 30%, and raises your team's fire, ice, and lightning resistance by 100%. Sharp Kick is a dispel. If you look at his magic spells, you can see Flood and Water Ga, which can be upgraded further. He also has Protect Ga and Shell Ga, which can be upgraded to further levels. Passives. With his Trustmaster reward or Super Trustmaster reward equipped, Nichol will gain a bunch of stats. At the start of your battle, he'll automatically buff your team's stats by 200%, their limit burst damage by 100%, their fire resistance by 100%, and fills the evocation gauge by 7. Onto his limit burst. Leviathan's Howl removes any buffs from your enemies, increases your team's stats by 300%, increases your team's limit burst damage by 200%, and removes any debuffs on your team. Too bad the regular Leviathan couldn't do that at all. Time to change forms. Nichol's Brave Shift has a 3-turn duration and a 4-turn cooldown. Active abilities. Crashing Tides deals water evoke damage that chains a floating strike, recovers your team's MP, and fills the evocation gauge for a net gain of 2. Water God's Rage raises your team's attack and magic by 280%, grants your team a double 100% Beast Aquatic Killer, and fills the evocation gauge for a net gain of 2. True Enhancing Stance requires a full evocation gauge to cast. It removes any attack and magic breaks on your team, boosts their attack and magic by 300%, fills your team's limit burst gauges by a great amount, recovers a whopping 1000 MP, and lets your team use Leviathan, an ability that deals water evoke damage that chains a flood. His passives remain the same in this form, but if Nichol happens to evoke Leviathan in this form, he'll activate an area effect that further boosts water damage by 25%. Onto his limit burst. It boosts your team's stats by 350%, their water damage by 45%, and their limit burst damage by 250%. Let's rank Brave abilities. I'd prioritize True Water Infusion to raise the elemental resistance, Water God's Rage to raise its stat boost, and finally Crashing Tides as it just raises damage. So, how good is Lord of the Seas Nichol? With his water elemental buffs and 350% stat boost, he will be the premier water support unit for the good foreseeable future. It's pretty egregious that he doesn't have any type of water imperil himself, which is a bit of a shame as it's a rather obvious exclusion. He's best in the team with a skilled water damage dealer, as opposed to using him with a random team. Still, if you want to get someone proficient, like Neo Vision Tifa, Nichol will drastically raise her damage output. The two can potentially beat out Sephiroth, given Tifa's passives. However, his own damage isn't quite as impressive as his ability to bolster others. Not that that matters when someone else can completely make up for that. He's also excellent as a general support unit, with mitigations and stat buffs, though I'm sure many of you would prefer Neo Vision Aerith. Admittedly, releasing Nichol at this time is a clever decision, narrowing the ridiculous power gap that would eventually ensue with the arrival of Final Fantasy VII. Still, Lord of the Seas Nichol is an excellent unit, and while admittedly niche, he has a clear-cut role and absolutely excels at it. Thanks for watching, and if you liked this video, leave a like and subscribe. Comment below if you plan to get Lord of the Seas Nichol. Turns out I was right. They really did bring in later banners before Sephiroth. Naren's a bit odd, but we'd be left with one of the Season 3 girls if they kept pairing them with fan-designed global original units anyways, and the Japanese banner only featured Lord of the Seas Nichol. Personally, as someone who plans to get Tifa, I wouldn't mind getting him. However, I also want enough Lapis to guarantee the Final Fantasy VII trio, so I'll just hope I get him randomly. That somehow usually works out.